So for my paper, I decided to do my paper on the use of deception in Shakespeare plays. Um, I noticed that when we were reading through plays throughout the semester that majority of them, deception was used in some form. So for this paper, I decided to dive into Hamlet as well as You Like It. And so my thesis has to do with that while there's deception in all Shakespeare plays, it drastically differs between tragedies and comedies based on the purpose of the deception, the outcome of it, and then the overall moral complexity of it. One of the first main differences I noticed was the purpose of it. In tragedies, the purpose is typically a lot more dark and, of course, creates that tragic effect. And usually there's more darker scheme going on there. So this took place in Hamlet. When Hamlet was acting mad just eventually to get revenge in the end, he acts like he's mad. He hurts a lot of people in the process. He eventually ends up killing someone. And so overall, it creates a more tragic effect, and Hamlet's only just finds revenge. As for As You Like It, it was a lot more lighthearted and it was more for a comedic effect. It ended up not hurting anyone. So this essentially was Rosalind pretending to be Ganymede. That way she could talk to Orlando, and basically she wanted to teach Orlando how to woo her. And so in the end, this didn't do any harm because Rosalind liked Orlando liked Rosalind, and so she was basically setting themselves up for marriage. Another difference that I noticed was the outcome of the deception. So the outcome in tragedies ends up being a lot more dark, oftentimes in death. So this happens in Hamlet at the end, where we see a lot of people just essentially end up dying. Laertes, Claudius, Hamlet. Horatio contemplates dying until Hamlet tells him not to. And so, just to quote Laertes confesses, he is justly served. It is a poison tempered by himself. Exchange forgiveness with me, noble Hamlet. Mine and my father's death come not upon thee, nor thine on me. And then he dies. And then Hamlet replies, Heaven make thee free of it. I follow thee. I am dead, Horatio. And so that was just the last scene where multiple people just ended up dying. The outcome in As You Like It was much different. The deception here essentially ends sort of deception, and it ends with a happy ending. So in this case, there was two marriages, and then one of those marriages being Rosalind and Orlando. So essentially, she comes in as Ganymede, and then leaves with Celia, only to come back as herself to marry Orlando. So the ending is very happy, and this is common in a fair amount of Shakespeare comedies. There's usually marriage, forgiveness, and whatnot, so that's the outcomes end up being drastically different. And then another difference I noticed was the nature of it. In tragedies, the schemes are definitely a lot more morally complex. Hamlet even goes so far as to come up with a complex scheme to change the lines in a play just to judge for himself if Claudius is guilty. And again, that is to find Claudius guilty so he can eventually take revenge and justify eventually killing him. But the difference in As You Like It, it's a lot more lighthearted, a lot more morally fraught, less complex. Again, Rosalind is just dressing up as a guy, as Ganymede, and it's a lot more playful. Orlando at one point mentions that he would die if Rosalind would not take him, and then her response as Ganymede is, no faith, die by attorney. The poor world is almost 6,000 years old, and in all the time there's not any man died in his own person, videlicent in a love cause. So here Rosalind is pretty much just teasing him for saying that he would die, as no one has actually died from love itself. And there was sort of just an irony in that, because Orlando's essentially telling Rosalind directly to her face that he would die without her, but he doesn't know that he's talking to her. So overall, those were just the differences I noted. It's just vastly different in what happens with deception between tragedies and comedies in a Shakespeare play.